Hello, everybody. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk about Vedic astrology, what it means to you, what it means to the world, and how it works to illustrate events that are ongoing and forthcoming. I do have some good news, at least for me. You may be indifferent about it, but we finally reached the 1,000 subscriber mark this past week, and so I'm very grateful to you for making this benchmark, and we'll continue to expand and increase viewership. I'm hoping to get to the stage of, let's say, much larger astrology channels as we go on. But again, like I said, I'm going to keep on doing this, even if the numbers are relatively small, because I just like doing this and I like doing it for you. Okay, so, but again, um, the goal isn't self-satisfaction. The goal is to bring knowledge and to expand knowledge. So that's the purpose of this particular channel. That's what we're looking to do, and hopefully um, entertain a little bit in the process. Okay. So if you do want to contact me for lessons or for readings, uh, the easiest way to reach me is to text me at 508-525-0001, or you can email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. So that's my name plus the letter G at gmail.com. So I'm going to, oh, also, don't forget, uh, 10 is to increase, not to decrease, okay? So essentially, for those of you who've stuck with me so far, thank you very much. For those of you who like what I'm doing and would be so kind, please share this video with your friends. If you haven't been subscribed, please subscribe, and we'll have some more interesting things going on over the next few months. I do have some interviews planned, and I do have. It looks like I'm going to be interviewed by somebody else, which we can share on this channel as well. Okay, so um, and also I don't have a precise date yet, but I will be lecturing on Rahu and Ketu transits in various houses and signs, and also on what I like to call the 60-year cycle. There's a 60-year cycle of Saturn and Jupiter, which I've been talking about a lot, but it also happens to coincide with a 60-year cycle of Rahu and Ketu. So every 60 years, roughly, give or take 5 years, you have um, major shifts in the world. And you can see these. You can use the outer planets if you wish. I have nothing against anybody who wants to use the outer planets. And as a matter of fact, the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and some people use what are called trans-Uranian planets, which are points in space. They're calculated points in space, which have much longer cycles than even Pluto does. And so some people use those as elements. Some people use what are called upagrahas, or little planets in Indian astrology. There is also a science connected with the years. So there are certain years which are good for certain things, or which represent certain things, so there's a 60-year cycle of years in Vedic astrology. So hopefully at some point in the near future, I'll talk about that cycle of years. It's the actual list of years is contained in the Jataka Parijata, which is essentially a textbook on Vedic astrology. It's a 3-volume textbook. It's full of a lot of good information. But also, some people actually give the significations and look at events that are caused by those particular years. And there are also planetary years which correspond to, or excuse me, um, some astrologers also use what are called sign years. So depending on location and orientation, you can see certain signs dominating or certain planets dominating in certain years. So and that is really judged. You can judge that from a variety of techniques. I prefer to judge it from uh, the January 15th chart or the April 15th chart. But let's go on to the world, the events in the world right now. I don't want to take up too much time getting into the weeds of like all the various techniques, some of which I know, some of which I'm a little bit dicey about. And finally, there are things called Brigu progressions, which are just, they're fairly simple to calculate. Uh, and so there are certain sequences in the chart where certain years will be hit by certain planets in the chart. So again, that's going to depend on a lot of different things. That's something I'm sort of a novice on, if I'm honest with you. Uh, but I've been studying a lot about it over the past couple of years, and it's really, really, really interesting. That and the planetary areas are areas that I find really, really fascinating. Planetary areas are essentially planetary. So you have a planetary location in a chart, and you almost like the sign areas. So you count from the you count from the planet to its lord, to its nearest lord, and then you add that, and you get a planetary aruda. And so you get a sign aruda by doing the same thing. There are certain exceptions to that calculational technique, but the planetary arudas show the effects of the planet in certain signs or certain houses. So it's actually interesting. I have seen some good effects connected with that, but again, it's something I probably want to talk about in another session when I feel I have more of a solid footing on that. So let me pull up the chart. I'm going to focus primarily on um, the transit chart. Then I'm going to look at the USA chart. And I might look at Japan's because Japan just had a significant change. And they had their first prime minister, their first female prime minister elected. And as I told you before, for many, many weeks, there are shifts in leaderships happening all over the world. So this to me is kind of a fascinating time to be alive. But for the chart for this week, one of the things that I noticed right away, and this happens right before sunrise every day, is we have a Venus K2 conjunction. This conjunction has been going on for the past month or so. All right, so that's significant. And why it's significant is it will disconnect you from relationships or from people who you have shared interests in. It will introduce you to new people. Okay, so you may have new significant friendships or new significant financial interests uh, come into your life. So you may have new loves or new, and when I say loves, it's not just people, it's like new artistic pursuits or new financial pursuits. the fact that it's with K2 can actually take away some affection you've had for some people who've been pretty important in your life. And it's mainly because of the person's either willfully removing themselves from you or consciously trying to detach or unattach from you. And so so one of the things I have noticed um, is that I've seen a lot of old friendships essentially um, get questioned or get dominated. This is or get eliminated. I've seen a lot of arguments among friends. I've seen a lot of arguments. So, and obviously in the United States and all around the world, we're going through an argumentative period with people we care about. Okay, so a lot of the political differences around the world have obviously separated families, but they're also separating friends. And this is to be expected. This is going to be particularly intense this month because of the Venus K2 conjunction. So K2 is actually a positive planet. It liberates you from things you don't need, or it pushes you in different directions more towards things which will make your life more meaningful or um, more less accumulative, because Venus does like to accumulate things, is what they call a bhoga planet in Sanskrit, which means it likes to gather things or grab things. And also, it will also cause some costs connected with those things or those people you enjoy. Okay. But the primary job of K2, and this is not to put down K2, is to liberate. The secondary job of K2 is to steal. Okay, so you'll look at something and say, well, this was really important to me, or this person was really important to me at one point in my life, but now they're really hostile or they're not as important to me at this particular venture. And you can either detach for a while or you can detach permanently. Okay. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to break off relationships with these individuals for the rest of your life. Excuse me, I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time. All right. But basically, the other thing is, and I can't overstress the importance of this particular conjunction because it can cause things like heart conditions. It can cause things because, especially because it's in the sign Leo, it can cause unexpected problems with foods. Okay, so let's say if you have any allergies to sugar or food or any kind of food allergies, it'll pop up amazingly quickly. If you'll attract all kinds of people who you thought to yourself, well, I don't know how much I have in common with that person. And this on this particular day, it's also happening when the Venus and Moon are opposite each other. So it's causing some mental stress to individuals, okay? Because there is a need to detach in terms of self-preservation. Venus is with what's called the Sri Lagna, which is connected with financial gains. Now, this will differ for every chart. It's not, but also I, I'm just seeing Jupiter's about to, so so Venus will cause us to shift our priorities at least for a month. K2 will shift our priorities in terms of who we want to be our leaders, okay, especially if it's in Leo. and Rahu will encourage rebellion. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of rebellion and a lot of activity in those areas. We'll probably see more as the year goes on. So, and I would even say to a certain extent, at least in the United States, a certain amount of continuous disruption for like around 6 or 7 months, but that's next year. The other significant thing is within 5 days, Venus, so right now Venus and K2 have been like right on top of each other, like clustered together. So if certain things in your life, let's say if you had less patience or um, less interest in things than normal, that's really the Venus K2 conjunction. If there's less interest in being in maintaining a friendship or a relationship, that's the Venus K2 conjunction. Okay. Uh, the other thing is, and again, this is not necessarily. It depends on the individual and depends on your chart, but this doesn't necessarily mean a person will get divorced or will end up um, leaving a marriage partner. Those combinations are actually fairly. It was more likely um, around March of this year, but I have gotten more than a few indications from people who I've spoken with that they're like seriously considering changing their relationship status. So, without going into any details, and so this period, especially through I would say through most of October, because Venus will move into Virgo and it will be opposed by Saturn, a retrograde Saturn. So a lot of past mistakes or a lot of past issues in relationships will come up and manifest very strongly within about 5 days. Okay, so if you have a grievance against somebody, so right now it's the critical stage. If you're like critical about what you like and what you want and what would make you happy, and next month that will continue, but it'll be more concrete, more in terms of trying to think of the best way to put this, more in terms of like um, blaming the relationship partner or the friend for holding you back. That's really, and maybe even taking a hike from that particular activity. It won't really clear up until early November. Now, on the positive side, so this can be good. I mean, one of the neat things about Venus K2 conjunctions is you can find new things or new activities, or you can find a need not to spend so much in order to make you happy. So that has positive implications to it. And like I said, you will get unexpected benefits or unexpected opportunities with this particular combination. And I think I've experienced this personally myself. Just out of the blue, I've been hearing from people over the past week or so. That also has to do more with the year in particular for me, but I'll leave myself out of this. I won't discuss myself all that much, but like I said, personally, I've experienced this within the past 2 weeks. The other thing is, though, so again, there'll be an opportunity for new friendships, but more spiritual friendships or friendships which free you or focus on freedom. The other thing is, so Mercury is usually the planet of friends, and so, but the other thing I want to focus on is this Venus moving into Virgo. So Venus is fallen in Virgo, and I'm going to talk about Jupiter and Mars, Mercury in a second. and Moon in a second. Okay, so this is just to give you like a snapshot of what's happening in our in our charts on a personal level. Venus will move into Virgo within 5 days. So basically, that will cause that increased criticism, that increased concentration on material acquisition, that increased attention on personal beauty. You know, Venus and Virgo people tend to be really, really picky about how they look. Okay. And so a lot of that will come to the fore over the next week or so. However, this is offset a little bit because there's some intelligence connected with relationships because we have Mars and Mercury in Libra and Mercury's Lord of Virgo. This is called a mutual exchange or a parivartana yoga. So you have the Lord of one sign. So Mercury rules Virgo. Mercury is in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So this particular Venus transit won't be that bad. The only downside to it that I can see is that Mercury and Mars are in the same sign, and that's almost automatically, at least from my experience, an indication of uh, a quick-witted lie. Okay, so acting, people will be more inclined to be political, less honest about things. Okay. And this is true of every political party. This is not necessarily true, just true of one party or another, or one group or another, or one person or another. There'll be a temptation to misrepresent either for sales or for gain, okay, or in terms of partnerships. So it's really important for people who are considering long-term relationships not to make any decisions about that until at least Mercury or Mars changes signs. Mars will change signs in about a month. Mercury will change signs or will stay there or shift. Uh, but I think you want to get Mars into Scorpio, and I'm going to check something out. Hold on a second. Check something out. 1 second. This won't take long. Okay, so let's do this. Yeah, so Mars and Mercury will be kind of following each other. So it's kind of a difficult time for relationship life. I would say all the way through, let me just see now, 11:05. Go to, yeah, pretty much all the way through around November 30th, or at least, let me just check one more date. Okay? Thank you for your patience. So we're really talking about November 20th, November 25th or so before it's really safe to get involved in a long-term relationship. And that doesn't mean you can't start to engage people around November 15th because the sun will be in Scorpio and Venus is at least placed in a favorable sign. But around November 25th through November 30th, you'll have two things happen. Number one, Saturn will go direct around the end of November. Jupiter will enter also. Jupiter will enter. Let me get this down. Jupiter will enter um, Cancer to get this out. Jupiter will enter Cancer 10, see, 10, and set up around the end of this coming week. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this from where you are, but 10, 10. Okay, so it'll be around October 12th or so, Jupiter will enter Cancer. And that will essentially, hopefully, it'll calm people down. The thing I'm always most concerned about with Jupiter entering Cancer is I've I've seen in previous charts that raises patriotic fervor, and it can also convince people uh, to be more willing to go to war. And I'm just not a big fan of war, just from a variety of perspectives, but mainly because I think it's a waste of resources and a waste of human life. So that always concerns me. But but basically, that's the most dangerous time for war up until really December. And Jupiter's really not going to stay in that sign for very long. It's only going to be in there for a couple of months. And but one thing it will do is it will strengthen traditional um, concepts. So what I mean by that is some of the more um, conventional beliefs in our in societies will tend to prevail. So you'll see a more conservative trend when Jupiter enters Cancer. You'll see the more liberal trends come back again around the end of the year, towards the beginning of next year, when Jupiter retrogrades into Gemini again. Uh, but the conservative traits will come back around June of next year. Okay, so um, you'll have an exalted Jupiter throughout the latter half of 2026 into around the middle half of 2027. And you'll see essentially what I would call a deadlock of more conservative values for about the next 6 years. But again, that's subject to fluctuation, that's subject to change. But Jupiter, the one good thing about this transit is Jupiter will aspect Mars, and so that will increase the potential for war, but also Saturn, which will make the economy unfreeze just a little bit. So that's one of the good traits about Jupiter entering Cancer. It's not going to be a very strong Jupiter. So I want to make sure that people don't confuse this with a really strong Jupiter. Jupiter's in its exaltation sign, but it's a very low degree. And that's really, it's almost like peeking into the next year. Okay. Uh, and the Saturn direct, a lot of activities were put on hold will actually start to manifest more positively. The other thing is we have, so in current news stories, we have a variety of things happening. There's been um, some indications of uh, public officials being hired into positions they really don't belong in. The one that comes to mind uh, initially, the one I'm paying most attention to is the Des Moines, Iowa superintendent of schools. And there's an entire uh, aura of misrepresentation around that entire case. Everything from the guy's background to how he made it work as far as he did. He was a superintendent of schools in two school districts in Pennsylvania. Apparently he's a registered Democrat, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not saying this is systemic. I don't know. But again, like I said, a lot of secrets tend to get exposed. Plus, there is a question about main ballots, which is being brought up. There's a question about we have court cases or court charges being filed against the former FBI director. There may be other charges filed against his successor, um, and but also on the other side we have the government shutdown, and we also have a delay in the reconvening of Congress. So that means that one more representative won't be seated, and we won't have and there won't be a vote on the Epstein files, and also there are some questions as to what the actual um, big beautiful bill will do to Medicaid coverage for people. So um, so uh, again, there are a lot of issues on both sides, which are represented by factors in the chart, and a lot of the government resolution. I don't think it'll happen until sometime towards the end of next week, or even it's possible even into the following week. Just because Jupiter's on the border. Okay. The other thing is um, we've seen increasing violence happen in the United States. We've seen increasing threats of violence happen across the United States. There's been a lot of fallout from uh, people getting fired, from people um, losing their jobs, but apparently nobody's taking any of this stuff really, really well or really, really maturely, at least in my humble opinion. So who am I? I'm just an astrologer from New Bedford, Mass, but it doesn't look very mature to me, and I think at least when Jupiter goes into Cancer, it looks like there'll be an adult in the room, and you'll at least see some kind of a resolution. But again, keep in mind, both sides are not committed to the truth. Neither side is committed to the truth with this Mars-Mercury conjunction. All right. I hate to say it because I like some positions on some sides, I like some positions on other sides, but but essentially this is a power struggle. Okay. It's not really it's not really about us. It's about it's it's about the government and who can essentially steal the government most effectively. And when I say steal the government, it's the K2 in the ninth house who can essentially um, win this short-term battle. The odds, given the fact that Jupiter's about to move into Cancer, the odds are definitely in favor of the Republicans just because of that particular uh, move. Um, it doesn't mean um, the Democrats I view as a Saturnian party, not because they're nasty or destructive or anything like that, but because they're older. They're the older party. Okay. So so basically, and they also stand for populations that Saturn is traditionally associated with. So the poor, immigrants, outcasts, people who need help. Republicans are connected with what I would call idealistic principles. And when I say idealistic, I don't mean that necessarily in a positive way. They're trying to, um, it's almost like a belief system that that you're that you're attached to as an ideal. Okay, so so when I say that, it doesn't mean I'm looking at either party as being superior. They have different goals. They have different ambitions. Okay, so so essentially, and you're free to disagree. I'm not saying that I'm absolutely right on this, but this is based upon years and years of observation, not just recent stuff. So, at least from this chart, Saturn is aspecting the sun. Saturn's really is really responsible for the planet for the government being in shutdown because Saturn stops things. I'm hoping it won't be shut down until the end of November, which is one of the implications if we have that retrograde Saturn, but it does indicate that, and like I said, I think that retrograde Saturn will be uh, overwhelmed by Jupiter going into its own sign within about a 2 week period. And but overall, in terms of the economy looks fairly good, at least in terms of financial growth. There is a lot of panic and misunderstanding going on right now. That's perfectly understandable given the state of our society and the state of media. Jupiter will be in the house of, in the media house or in the intelligence house of the United States for a couple of months. So you'll have a chance to see the intelligence network at work and the news network and the news system at work pretty vividly over the next couple of over the next month or so. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're horrible people. It just means that's what their function of media is in all societies, but especially in the United States. It's it wants attention. It wants more. Is we have so this is the U.S. chart. We have a retrograde Mercury in the eighth house and um, Rahu along with it. So that's going to make the media essentially pretty greedy. And that's also going to make our intelligence rather suspect, if I'm being honest with you. All right, so it doesn't, uh, so I'm not saying intelligence doesn't provide a necessary function. It's a necessary function of a modern state, but this is not really this is kind of a sneaky intelligence system over here. Saturn is at, so for those of you who may be listening in the intelligence community, you're doing a great job. But, but, because I don't want to be uh, targeted by anybody. Uh, but am I important enough to be targeted by anybody? I doubt it. Saturn and the U.S. chart, Jupiter's been in the seventh house in the U.S. chart, and it's been in its natal position. So the U.S. is in a Jupiter return right now, and it will be for another 6 months. So basically, that's why you're seeing a lot of what I would call um, the country trying to reset itself or trying to go in a more traditional direction that'll take upon a certain fervor um, next year. And we have the moon over here. The moon is with Rahu, so that's causing a lot of people to panic and a lot of people to get very paranoid about what's happening with the government. Um, and it's a show. It's not really, it has real ramifications, but it's just a show. Um, and what I mean by that is a lot of the anxiety is, at least from my perspective, is it's real, but it's pumped up. It's panic. The other thing is there's a fear of recession because Venus and K2 are coming close to the yogi point, which is a point of prosperity in the US chart. And Sun, the Sun right now is in Saturn sign. Now, again, every year this time, the Sun is in Saturn sign in the US chart. The thing that makes the shutdown significant is the K2 Sun conjunction. I'm sorry, the K2 Venus conjunction over here. So I'm thinking, at least from what I can tell from the chart, if I look at uh, the current chart in the U.S., we have so and and me laughing about this is I'm not taking this lightly. I'm just saying um, we're in a pattern we've seen repeated um, pretty regularly in the past. Uh, a lot of people. So I can remember um, a huge raid on a factory down by my store um, during the Obama years. Okay, so there were ICE raids during the Obama years. There weren't as many. They were more uh, they were more discreet. But you actually had people jumping out of factory windows and into the water, and it was freezing temperature outside. So if I can remember that anecdotally from like just one small part of the United States, I know there were more deportations done during the Obama administration than during any previous administration. Now, again, I'm not trying to take sides here. I'm just saying keep in mind the none of this stuff we're seeing is new. As I tried to tell you last week, we saw um, political and free speech impediments during the Biden years, during the Bush years, even during the Obama years, to be truthful. So so essentially, a lot of the things that we think are like new activities really aren't new activities. Now, do they, does that mean I approve of them? It doesn't necessarily mean that I do, okay? I'm just saying that we've been through this before several times, but we all have such short memories, and if somebody says on TV this is unprecedented, we tend to believe them. But these moves aren't unprecedented. You know, we've seen similar patterns going back over the past 60 years and beyond. So it's time to calm down, really, and try to address what you can address. Try to, but try to get out of the panic. I know it's tough because Rahu's in the moon's is in the moon sign of the USA chart. Okay, but please try to calm down. Okay, we've actually been through worse. Okay. The other thing that I want to look at just for 1 second is I want to see if I can pull up Japan's chart just quickly because just went through a big change. Nope. Would help if I spelled Japan correctly. I don't have the country's time. I'm sorry, folks. Okay, so I'll have to look at that next week. But I want to look at India's chart for just 1 second. And I want and I do want to look at going through a Scorpio Gemini Mahadasha. So K2, so there's more conflict than normal in India. Scorpio Aquarius subperiod. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rahu's in Aquarius, so a little bit more civil unrest than is normal for India. So I believe that's just happening in the eastern part of the country, from what I recall seeing on the news. And that will continue at least until November 15th. Okay. And at which time you'll start to see the government uh, pull more pull more authority in. If we're looking at the period between November 15th and June 13th will be very difficult for the ruling party in India. And the main reason I'm saying that is because it's, let me just see if I can find it. Yeah, so right now, so so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Nati Karaka will be in the seventh house from Capricorn. It won't throw an aspect on Capricorn, but it'll be in the seventh house from Capricorn. And that could indicate an upset or maybe a political defeat. Um, After next June, Scorpio Sagittarius, you'll probably see some improved wealth, but it's also some increased disruption in India. And that's mainly because Sagittarius tends to have a disruptive element to it as a sign in general. So if not by next June, then shortly after June, there'll be what I would call a slight fall in position for India. So this doesn't mean India will be wrecked. That's not the idea. But Sagittarius typically gives a bit, Sagittarius and Leo typically in the Gemini Chardasha system typically give a fall in power. So it doesn't mean India is permanently screwed up. It just means that the Sagittarius period will be a little bit difficult for it. Um, Jupiter is in the first house. So yeah, so and August 15, 2027 through August 15, 2027, you'll probably see what I would call a reformation of India, um, more connected with its desires, more connected. Its luck will actually be pretty good, but you may see India involved in more military conflicts, which I'm hoping doesn't happen. Um, so okay, so but at least in the short term, the Aquarius is a disruptive subperiod. Capricorn is more stable, but again, it could give a shifting government. And Sagittarius is overall is going to be a much more challenging subperiod for India, at least in terms of economy and luck. So maybe some short outbreaks then. Uh, the Sagittarius major planetary period, it's not necessarily negative. I wouldn't put it that way, but it is transformational. So you may even see a switch in the governmental structure or more international prominence, but also some shifts in the way India has been doing business for a while. And I think you'll see it become much more like, not necessarily more like the United States. That's kind of misleading, but more aggressive financially. Let's put it that way. So the period I'll have to watch out for will definitely be the Sagittarius Leo subperiod. Okay. And if you look over here, these are things called Dagda Rashis. So the Dagda Rashis are tend to be difficult um, signs for India, and Gemini and Virgo are the two difficult signs, but also Sagittarius and Pisces are mentioned as being difficult signs um, for so again, transformative, definitely. It's not necessarily going to be a bad period, but it will be disruptive. Okay, so disruptive in a positive way, but also, like I said, some potential for conflict. All right, so let's get back to your chart. Okay, I don't want to look at England right now. I'll look at England next week. England and Europe are still in kind of a bizarre situation. Um, they're most of the countries over there are unhappy, at least superficially unhappy with their governments, and um, right-wing parties are starting to gain ascendancy. Uh, so it so it looks like this doesn't mean um, and again, a lot of it's based around immigration issues for those countries. So Sweden, England, France, Germany, a lot of other countries in Europe have been Italy, although Italy's making steps to separate from the European Union. Most of these countries have suffered because of immigration. They haven't, and I definitely wouldn't say it's the immigrants' fault. I think it's the fault that the government policies are just, um, they haven't thought through how they would handle such massive waves of immigration. I think that's the issue. And so when that happens, you have all sorts of unfiltered experiences hitting the people who are already there, and it isn't an automatic adjustment. This is state. I think this is kind of stating the obvious. So you will have some resistance to cultural changes. You will have, since most of the countries were embedding these individuals, you will have more than a fair share of people who shouldn't be admitted being admitted. I don't think that's an incredibly controversial position to take. So, but basically, I think at least, so over the next year or so, we're talking about major changes in those countries as well. So let's look at your individual charts. I took longer than I hoped it would, but let's look at your individual charts for Aries, and I'm going to buzz through these kind of quickly because they're not changing that much. Aries has, this is April 15th to May 15th, Aries has Mars in the seventh house. It's the same position it was in last week, so increased fights with a relationship partner. Although sexual relations can be spicy. Venus and K2 are in the fifth house. Unusual problems with children. Jupiter's in, so maybe there's the child's either stealing or doing something that doesn't please you to indulge themselves. Jupiter's in the third house. There's a strong desire not to rock the boat. Sun's in the sixth house. That's good for calming down, for at least addressing the problems with kids. Um, Moon and Rahu are in the 11th house. That's difficult for friendships. And finally, Saturn's in the 12th house. So again, a heavy expenditure pattern shows for this sign. That may lighten up within a few days with Jupiter entering Cancer. So So hopefully you'll see some relief in that area. Um, for Taurus, Taurus is May 15th to June 15th. Jupiter's in the second house, good for financial gains. Saturn aspects the first house, more responsibilities connected with that. K2 is in the fourth house with Venus. Uh, home or cars will need repair. Sun is in the fifth house. Um, and again, family matters may assume most of your attention. Sixth house has Mars in it. Some fights or losses with a relationship partner, although on the positive side, relationship partner will bring in more money over the next week. Moon and Rahu are in the career house, so there's some anxiety or fear about career life. And Saturn's in the 11th house, slow gain, stalls in promotions. For Gemini, Gemini is June 15th to July 15th. Jupiter's in the first house. And so that's generally a good placement. It's a kind of a weak Jupiter, but it does give this sign a little bit of enthusiasm. Venus and Case, who are in the third house, it, it gives the sign more courage, more ability to fulfill its goals. Mars is in the fifth house, along with Mercury, so children may lie or be uh, difficult to deal with over the next month. Sun is in the fourth house, a lot of attention on home life again for this sign. And Moon and Rahu are in the ninth house. So there is a strong feeling that your luck is abandoning you. Saturn's in the 10th house. Pay most attention to your career this week. That's the most important thing for Gemini. For Cancer, Cancer is July 15th through August 15th. The moon rules Cancer. Moon and Rahu are in the eighth house together. So there's some anxiety or some worry that people are conspiring against you. Uh, K2 is with Venus in the second house. So that's not a bad placement. Actually, it does give unexpected financial gains uh, because, because the Sri Lagna is there as well. Excuse me. Uh, Mercury rules the third house, is placed in the fourth house. So, again, a lot of courage for this sign this month. Um, Mars is in the fourth house. Some relationship issues, definitely, for this chart. Some problems with relationship partners not being entirely truthful with you. Relationship partners being a little bit deceptive this week. Saturn's in the ninth house. Good for career gains, good for improving work life. And Jupiter's in the 12th house, good for saving, good for financial growth. And Jupiter will be in the first house with pretty close to when I next go on. So I think you'll start to see some more optimism for this sign. For Leo, Leo has Venus and K2 in the first house. Uh, so it's just, it's just a Cancer, right? Yeah, because I said money was good for Cancer. All right. Um, all right. So Leo has K2 and Venus in the first house. Again, as I said before, that's a Raj Yoga. That's a good combination. Um, it's not the best Raj Yoga, but it's fairly good. You have an angular lord in a trinal house along with a node. That's considered to be a good combination in Indian astrology, although the help will come from unexpected directions. Sun is in the second house. The sign will want to be forceful, will want to be critical, will want to be uh, talking down to people, telling people what to do. Mars is in the third house. He tends to give good gains, good ability to act, good ability to sell your product. Moon is in the seventh house along with Rahu. That is a good combination, especially for because this is Aquarius. So relationship partner will have more fame or recognition, if not more worry. Saturn's in the eighth house. You'll be opposed by old traditions or old ways of doing things. Um, Jupiter's in the 11th house, good for financial gains. Jupiter will move into the 12th, good for financial gains as well, good for saving money. For Virgo, Virgo is so Leo is August 15th through September 15th, and Cancer was July 15th through August 15th. So, again, I'm going to recap Cancer because I'm not sure I did it. Good for savings, good for financial growth, um, some increased financial growth, arguments with wife or with a relationship partner. Yeah, so I already did do Cancer. My apologies. For Virgo, Virgo has Sun in the first house, as the 12th house Lord in the first house, so it tends to give expenses to the sign. Venus in the 12th house is usually considered good, and any expenses will be paid either for knowledge or connect you with increasing financial resources. So that's good, and it'll come from unexpected places. Mars and Mercury are in the second house. It's easy to lie to get what you want this month. If you find yourself falling behind, I wouldn't recommend anybody lie, but this is the time to sell yourself. Okay? So you can exaggerate, you can, market yourself pretty efficiently these next few weeks. We have Moon and Rahu in the sixth house. That can give some anxiety over daily work or some anxiety over accidents. Saturn's in the seventh house. Not necessarily a good time for long-term relationships, and Jupiter's in the 10th house, moving to the 11th house. Good times for gains from career. Good time for gains from career, excuse me. For Libra, Libra has Mars and Mercury in the first house. That's a combination of that's a that's what's called a Dana Yoga, or so there's no combination with the first house Lord, which weakens it a little bit. So Venus is the first house Lord, but the first house Lord is in the 11th house, which is a Dana Yoga by itself, even if it's with Ketu. So there will be increased resources from property, increased resources from learning, increased resources from um, education and from research studies. Yogi Point is in the second house. That's a good placement for financial growth for this sign. Moon and Rahu are in the fifth house. It does give some anxiety about creativity. It's going to make the person seem a little bit disruptive or a little bit unconventional, but it's a very good sign for creativity. Saturn's in the sixth house. That's good for overcoming enemies, but again, it does aspect your sun, so you won't make a lot of progress with financial gains. So some money, at least in terms of health or in terms of repairs, are needed to are needed to be spent because the sun's in the 12th house of expenditures. So anything you gain will be spent, but again, this at least takes you out of immediate danger. And we have Jupiter in the ninth, about to go to the 10th, so career life should expand a great deal over the next couple of months. So this isn't a bad chart for Libra. Not a good time for new relationships. So I've said this several months running. So this would be people born between October 15th and people whose moon or rising sign is in Libra. Sun is September 15th. I'm sorry, Virgo is September 15th through October 15th. For Scorpio, Scorpio has Yogi Point in the first house, good for financial gains. Mars is in the 12th house, so a lot of expenditures because of hidden problems or maybe even plumbing issues, and also because um, of health issues because the sixth house lords in the 12th house. They'll be taken care of, but they'll still be a little bit difficult. Second house has Jupiter in it, or is ruled by Jupiter, and is aspected by Jupiter, so some unexpected gains, mainly through relationship partner. Moon and Rahu are in the fourth house. You can give some anxiety or worry about uh, um, occasion. Saturn's in the fifth house, some disappointment connected with kids, okay? Or kids' progress is slowed down. Creative progress is slowed down too. We've already spoken about Jupiter. Venus and K2 in the Sri Lagna are in the 10th house of career, so this should indicate good career growth for the sign. And Sun in the 11th house, good financial gains, but again, a lot of expenses for the sign. Sagittarius has Kodanda in the first house, which is like a small Venus. So that's not bad. This will actually increase the sign's prosperity. Moon and Rahu are in the third house. So there can be some anxiety that you won't be able to fulfill your ambitions. Saturn's in the fourth, a lot of home-based um, financial issues. Jupiter's in the seventh, about to go to the eighth. There should bring some gains from relationship partners. Venus and K2 are in the ninth house. Actually, this is not a bad combination for financial gains for this sign. And Sun is in the 10th house. So career life should expand. Mars is in the 11th house. Some arguments or disagreements with friends, but basically this is not a bad placement. And some financial gain is indicated for Sagittarius this month. Sagittarius is December 15th through January 15th. Capricorn, January 15th through February 15th. We have the Vanada Lagna, which means you'll tend to associate with a small group of people like yourself, or very business-oriented people. Moon and Rahu in the second house indicates some anxiety over finances or some worry over finances, and mainly over finances because of spouse's spending. Um, Saturn's in the third house, not a bad placement. It gives you a great deal of courage, a great deal of ambition. Let's see now, Jupiter's in the sixth, so it'll make you very competitive, but you'll actually see an increase in luck within about 2 weeks. K2 Venus are in the eighth house, so this can mean unpredictable investments or unpredictable business partnerships. Sun is in the ninth house. This is in Virgo sign, so good for career life overall. And finally, I think that's it. So it indicates good career success for Capricorn. For Aquarius, Aquarius is February 15th to March 15th. Moon and Rahu in the first house gives considerable anxiety to this sign. And I think one of the things is you have Venus in the seventh house, so it will offset that a little bit. So you'll be kind of up and down about it. And I'm just trying to think of the other things I want to say about this sign. Saturn's in the second house, so money will be slow in coming, or people will promise things and they won't deliver quickly. Uh, Jupiter's in the fifth house, so overall the luck of this sign is good. It goes to the sixth house and within 2 weeks, so you'll see a little bit of a change, and you'll have to work more for things than you have before. The K2 Venus conjunction we've already touched on. Sun's in the eighth house, so the sign won't have a lot of confidence over the next few days, over the next 15 days or so. Mars and Mercury are in the ninth house. good for career life, good for luck through career. And I think that's about it for Aquarius. Um, Pisces has Saturn and Neptune. I'll include Neptune in this in the first house. Um, but Saturn's in a sign ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter's in kind of a shadowy state, so that takes care of the Neptune conjunction. So, so essentially, Jupiter's kind of between worlds for the sign, so it doesn't give uh, people born between March 15th and April 15th much uh, of a foundation to believe in, at least for a couple of months. K2 and Venus are in the sixth house, and that tends to give um, problems with coworkers or problems at work. Sun is in the seventh house. A lot of focus on relationship partner. Mars and Mercury are in the eighth house. It'll be very easy to find somebody who wants to get into a relationship who's willing to lie to you from this combination. So again, delay relationship life for at least until the end of November. We have a Moon Rahu conjunction in the 12th house. Some financial drain because of illnesses and anxiety about illnesses. So let's go to the time and space chart. I feel like I run a marathon. Let's go to the time and space chart. I know I haven't, but all right. So we're gonna drop this down and see what's happening. The one thing I haven't mentioned, and I think it's kind of interesting, is we have seen a lot of Earth activity like volcanoes um, and earthquakes. So Myanmar suffered one recently, I think. Um, and there's been flooding in Arizona. So, so that can be seen by the Venus line going through there. Okay, so Venus, especially if it's with K2, and I should have mentioned this last week, can cause a lot of unexpected flooding. Okay, so let's start from left to right as I normally do. We have Jupiter over uh, Russia, or the far end of Russia. It's not interacting with very many islands there. Um, it is giving some indication of possible volcanic or earthquake activity in Alaska and maybe in the Hawaiian Islands, although that's also maybe some indications of violence uh, or separatism in Western Canada. I'll have to look at Canada's chart again really soon. Venus is, we have a Venus, let me move this over. Venus, Rahu, Moon, Saturn line running through um, the states that were affected by the heavy rains. And I want to say it was Oregon. Oh, and also riots. Definitely. Portland, Oregon had not riots, demonstrations, but they turned violent, right? So, uh, so basically, we have a potential flooding in this general area in the United States. And Saturn over here, some potential uh, domestic trouble also in Alberta. There's a sun line running right through um, Wisconsin, down through Iowa, down through um, Arkansas, I guess it is, and it looks like Arkansas. It's Arkansas. Oh, that's Missouri, sorry. Uh, and down down through down through Texas and into Mexico City. So Mexico has been having some problems lately. I know that as well. Um, and you know, Mercury is moving through looks like Ohio, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, close to Atlanta, and down to Florida, and down into Cuba, which is also having some demonstrations from what I understand. So we're hearing more about Cuba. Uh, there's some disruption in the Panama Canal zone, um, which should be corrected fairly soon. Um, there's also uh, some reestablishment of order in Haiti, it looks like. There's a Mars line running through the Dominican Republic and close to Puerto Rico and up through Venezuela. And we know there has been gunboat activity and U.S. Uh, attacks on Venezuelan drug ships. Um, so they're telling that's what they're telling us. And and so this Mars line is running all the way down through western Brazil, down into Peru, down into Chile, and down into Argentina. So we can expect some violence, and also up into New England, which I'm not crazy about. The ballot issue, that issue about the ballots being found in Amazon box, I'm wondering if that's what that's showing. You know, some demonstrations or some active protests against the United States, requesting to review Maine's election procedures. I wonder. Um, it can also mean more mundane things with Mars, like more potential for accidents and more potential for injuries. So people on the Cape, on Cape Cod, or in New Hampshire or in Maine, just be extra careful. I would even say within the span right here, be extra careful. Um, we don't have any major planetary lines until we go over to Iceland and Azores, and there's a little bit of a panic situation going over there. I don't know if it's economic or something more Earth-based. Rahu is in Aquarius, so it's more of an air-based problem. So I'm wondering if there'll be some kind of a government scandal connected with Azores and with Iceland over the next few months. And we have Venus lines, probably some danger of flooding, some danger of um, earthquake activity in this region. And we have a sun line going down through Morocco, down through East Africa, all the way down close to Gabon. And um, Ireland has a Mercury line, Ireland, England, France, um, Algeria, all have these very active lines going through them, Mozambique down to South Africa. So we'll be hearing a lot about those parts of the world, Spain as well. And we have a Mars line running through Western England into France, down into uh, down into um, Chad and down into Nigeria. So there can be some, and down to South Africa. So there can be some violence in this part of the world over here. Uh, we don't have any other lines, any other prominent lines. So yeah, we're talking about earthquakes. I would pick these regions, and this region is more likely to have them. It doesn't exempt what I would call more traditional earthquake zones like Turkey from having earthquakes, but I don't think we're going to see anything serious there. Um, the other thing is I'm not looking at the birth chart of the country, so I have to uh, not be so um, absolute about that. But but I know that this region of the world is very earthquake prone. So, so it's something to watch out for just in general, but there's no activity there right now. The next lines show up through Rahu. Rahu is over Iran. There can be some disruption to the government, Afghanistan and Pakistan. So again, some governmental scandals. Venus is there. There may be some attempts to overthrow the government in Afghanistan or Pakistan, or maybe both. And there's a Saturn line running over Western India, which can indicate some pretty difficult situations, especially connected with land resources and also with governance in this part of the country. Um, so you may see power slipping from that part of the country. There's a nice little Jupiter line running through, um, not through Ukraine, but through Russia and down into China, down into Ladakh and Bangladesh, and down into um, Indonesia, Indonesia, um, and Malaysia. It looks like we're getting some extra Jupiter energy. Now that can be good. It can be difficult because Jupiter's between signs. So this could indicate like a really serious typhoon down here. Okay, so this is something to be cautious about. Jupiter doesn't always, Jupiter's a benefic, but Jupiter sometimes brings too much of something. So we have some pretty big lines down here. Sun is hitting India and China and Russia. And so again, this indicates increased governmental authority in these regions of those countries. Okay, so Bengal and that general part of the country. Uh, there's a Mercury line running through Myanmar. We have heard about the earthquakes in Myanmar. That's a Mercury thing. And you know, there's also a Mars line running through. Um, let's see now. Taiwan, it looks like, at least from this chart, and close to Vietnam. So there are some potential for conflicts in this region. Indonesia has been going through some governmental strife lately. So it's not surprising to see Indonesia having this line over here. China, it's been in again, with a country as big as China, you're not going to see anything really shut it down long term, but there is a potential for violence in this particular region of China. The other planetary lines are close to Japan. There was just a change in government in Japan, and there's a Rahu line heading down towards New Zealand. New Zealand should get a change in government as well. And Micronesia over here, some problems in the small government, in the governments in those parts of the country. Australia has been going through some economic issues lately. I know this because I actually watch international news and not just national news. But right now they seem a little bit clear. They seem to be out of immediate danger. But I would continue to watch Australia over the next few months. So that's it for me for this week. If you have anything you would like to see me cover, please let me know. I am at your service. And again, thanks very much for the 1,000 subscriptions. That's great news. And I love you all and have a careful and prosperous and wonderful week ahead. Okay? All right. So just remember, even if the stars are difficult, you can still make progress in your life. Okay? So, that's our lesson. The stars are not, uh, the planets are not negatives. They're essentially states of mind we have to deal with in order to fulfill our karma. And sometimes fulfilling our karma means um, learning to deal with the energies and make the most out of them rather than complaining I can't do anything because of this. Okay? You can always do something. Okay? All right, folks. You have a great week. God bless everyone. And I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Namaste. And a special shout out to my friends who've been through a difficult week. Um, God bless you, and I hope everything works out well for you. You'll know who you are as soon as you see this, and also my blessings to my new friends and all sorts of people who I've had disagreements with. It's it's all part of the learning experience, and I accept that. Bye, everyone.